It's Sunday, December 7th, 2025. So I was reviewing the news this morning. I saw two different articles, one actually a video with Keith Kellogg and the other an article that were telling me, that we're really in two different pages. We're fighting two different wars simultaneously. The Russians are fighting one way for specific ends, and the Ukrainians are fighting another way for specific ends. You'll see that in the daily events, and I'll go over the daily events briefly, and then I'll tie it all together at the end. So please stay with me all the way to the end today. At night, Ukrainian drones were active near Engels 2 Air Base in Saratov. The air base is used by Russian strategic aviation for missile strike campaigns against Ukrainian cities. Russian air defenses were seen operating against incoming drone. We don't have a lot of extra data about what might have been hit or what was shot down or anything along those lines. Over the course of the year, Ukraine carried out more than 180 strikes on Russian oil infrastructure in 2025. Okay, so that's like every other day they're striking something in Russian oil infrastructure, trying to destroy Russia's capacity to earn it, to pay the bills in order to fund the Russian army's attack on Ukraine. Results are measurable. Russian refining capacity is down 25%. Rosneft, Russia's oil giant, reported a 70% collapse in net income for the first time in 9 months of 2025, falling to $3.7 billion. Okay, so now that's partially coupled with American and other sanctions on Rosneft, and so, but that's a story of what Ukraine is trying to do to Russia. Here, the other day, I showed you this image or this footage of a Su-24 bomber, a radar system, another radar system, yet another radar system, all being attacked by Ukrainian drones. So they're going after military sources. And by the way, that day, the footage I showed you that day, that was $100 million day. I mean, or well, all the collective footage was worth about $100 million worth of strikes. Okay. But the point of that is that they're going after military and they're going after oil in order to deprive the Russians of the ability to fund their military. Okay, let's turn our attention to what the Russians were doing. Last night, 246 drone attacks. 246 is reasonably high, given that the night before was pretty big as well. But it was only a 72% shoot down rate or interception rate. Okay, that's really not good, especially with 246. The night before, again, was 704. That was the third highest. And this is what it looked like over Ukraine the night before. Okay, they're swarming. What are they attacking? They're not going after military targets. They're not going after Ukraine's oil or whatever. They're going after energy that they're trying to depower Ukraine, and they're going after civilian targets. This week alone, Russia launched over 1,600 attack drones, around 1,200 guided bombs, nearly 70 missiles at Ukraine, according to Zelensky. Main targets were infrastructure supporting everyday life. Okay. It's just a tale of two different wars. I mean, they're going after very, very, very different things. Okay, here's the British intelligence update. Russia is continuing its concerted deep strike campaign against Ukrainian energy critical national infrastructure, almost certainly seeking to cause a humanitarian crisis amongst Ukraine's civilian population over the winter. That's the goal. That is Russia's primary intent here. In November 2025, Russia launched approximately 5,400 one-way attack uncrewed aerial systems against Ukraine, as well as more than 90 missiles from long-range aviation aircraft. Russia has launched over 5,000 OAW UAS in each of the past 3 months, with the objective of saturating Ukraine's air defense. Daily reliance on large numbers of cheap, mass-produced UAS, both armed and decoy, is indicative of Russia's attritional approach to the conflict and affords Ukraine minimal respite. Launch rates are regularly limited by adverse weather conditions and geopolitical considerations. However, lulls are often followed by peaks as perceived conditions improved. So the peaks would be things like what we saw just the other day. Okay, so that's what Russia is doing to Ukraine. Now, Russian forces also struck a dam last night near Kharkiv, a key supply route for Ukrainian troops. Okay, if it has a supply route for Ukrainian troops effect, but there's again more to the story. This is the kind of thing that they've hit before, and when it wasn't that useful for that. A road running across a reservoir dam connects Kharkiv with Vovchansk, making it vital logistics artery for the Ukrainian military. The dam was already targeted by missiles in 2022. The reservoir itself was created in 1962 to provide Kharkiv with fresh water. So I get it that it's useful now, or more useful now, as a logistics hub. But I don't think they were striking it for the logistics hub so much as to just cause destruction. Overnight, another massive combined strike hit infrastructure in Kremenchuk. Power, water, and heating outages are reported in parts of the city, according to the mayor. Whereas that is halfway between Kyiv and Dnipro, right? So they're like, this is nowhere near the front line, right? The front line's out here. And they're just striking all these infrastructure targets within Ukraine in order to cause misery. This is Anton Gurashenko posting this about a Russian commentator. Russian Gerdes claims that peaceful Ukrainians supposedly deserve to die from Russian missiles and drones. Sure, why should we care about this population? Yeah, they're just going after the civilians. And that's okay. That is what they think is the right approach. Okay, let's look at the battlefield. 1080 Russians off the battlefield day over day. So 1,030 is about the average, so slightly above the average. 3 tanks. And when we get down to a number of auto and fuel tanks, 98 auto and fuel tanks, 0 armored combat vehicles, 33 artillery systems, 98 autos and fuel tanks. Okay, so that's what day over day has been. Engagements and casualties below the 7-day average, 246 overnight attacks, including 5 missiles, and an interception rate that was pretty bleak. Okay, cross direction. Russians invaders carried out 39 assaults, very low. I mean, compared to what's been going on in the cross, that's very low. Zaporizhia, the Huliopol direction, 14 combat engagements. Okay, it's about what it has been over the last couple of weeks. Last night, or the last couple of days, it was lower than that, but there we are with Huliopol. Kupiansk direction, 8 enemy attacks. That's the other one to keep an eye on. Russian infantryman jumps into a well to avoid FPV drones, except FPV drones can also go down the well. So here he is trying to get away because he's seeing that there's problems. He jumps down the well, and, well, you already know the end of the story because you saw where the video picked up. That FPV drone can go down a well too, and so that's going to end up badly for him. Now, this is what I wanted to tie together. I was looking at this video, and then I read the article that I'm about to show you, and I was thinking, we're just fighting 2 different wars. President Trump's special envoy for Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, said that to end the war in Ukraine, 2 issues need to be resolved. And he says that when he's thinking about, as a military man, look, the last 10 meters is always the hardest, and we're down to just basically 2 issues. We're looking at, what kind of land issues and Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Just listen to him for a moment.
If you're a military guy, especially you're at ground, Marine Corps or infantry, that you realize the last 10 meters to objective is always your hardest. That's where the friction of war really sets in. And I think with the last 10 meters of trying to end this conflict, where it's at, I think we're really down to a couple of issues, and the issues that are on terrain, which is primarily Donetsk, which is the second oblast. You have Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia and Kherson, and the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, which is currently in cold storage right now. But that is a huge nuclear power plant. If we get those 2 issues settled, I think the rest of the things will work out fairly well.
Okay, and that seems to dovetail with what Marco Rubio was talking about, with that they're literally fighting over a 30 to 50 kilometer strip in Donetsk, which I don't think is a very fair assessment. Now, let's let Kellogg continue to finish what he's saying before I go back to that.
It's been hard. It's been hard to work through the issues with everybody. But, I'd like to remind everybody in the room, the scale of that war is unprecedented when it comes to regional conflict.
Yep.
The Soviet Union left Afghanistan after losing 18,000. We left Vietnam after losing 58,000. Russia and Ukraine combined have lost over 2 million. Think about that. That is horrific numbers out there. And so we need to get the conflict to an end.
Let's just look at the Russian side of the equation. It'll be about 1.2 million by the end of this year for Russia's losses. And so, I mean, yeah, the scale is terrible. Now, if we're looking at this, they're literally fighting over 30 to 50 kilometer strip in Donetsk, according to Rubio. That's not understanding what's actually happening. That might be the way that Rubio sees it. It's not the way that the Ukrainians see it. The Ukrainians are thinking about it, thinking, this is an existential conflict. We're not fighting over 30 to 50% or kilometer strip. We're fighting for our liberty, right? Except Russia's not fighting for a patch of Donbass. It's fighting for Ukraine's political subjugation. It's an excellent article. It's in the Kyiv Post. Okay, they're literally fighting over a 30 to 50 kilometer strip in Donetsk. Roughly 20% of the region is still under Ukrainian control and now a central issue in negotiations, Marco Rubio said on Fox News December 2nd. These words reveal a profound misunderstanding of the objectives Russia is pursuing. Russia does not need these territories to declare a propaganda victory, or does need these territories to declare a propaganda victory. It doesn't need the territories at all. I mean, you have the world's largest nation, and they got that way by doing what they're doing right now. Does this mean that this is Putin's main goal? No. It's not Putin's main goal. European and other democratic states operate within short planning cycles shaped by elections. Russia is the opposite. Long-term nature of Kremlin's strategy, pursued deliberately over a decade through military aggression and hybrid operations, is the real problem. This is why the narrative of fighting over 30 to 50 kilometer strip is convenient for Moscow. Western partners ask whether it's worth investing in massive financial and human resources in defending a devastated patch of land. It goes on. For Ukraine, Russia's objective is political subjugation. That's right. That's what Russia's really after. Stripping it of sovereignty and installing a Kyiv puppet government dependent on Moscow. It's a return to the model that persisted for centuries until 1991. For NATO's eastern flank, the goal is weakening and destabilizing to rebuild a Russian sphere of influence. That's right. Now, it's worth recalling that Russia attacked Ukraine when Kyiv began slipping from its orbit. When reformist thinking took root, identity process accelerated, and even Viktor Yanukovych resisted fully subordinating Ukraine's economy to Moscow. Russia tolerated a subordinate Ukraine, not an autonomous one. Once it realized that it was losing it, aggression followed, then war. The Orange Revolution and then the Euromaidan were key turning points. So what Russia really wants is a subjugated Ukraine. That's it. If Russia had a subjugated Ukraine, this war never would have started. But Ukraine wants to be independent and free. And Russia will argue that, well, the Donetsk People's Republic, they have the right to this self-determination. And so we're going to help them be free. And this is what they mean by helping them be free. They're going to liberate them to be part of Russia. And they'll do this in the process to them. They'll do this kind of wreak this kind of havoc on Ukraine in order to free them. Okay, they're fighting two very different wars. Again, look at what the targets are, and you can see it clearly. Tell me what you thought about this. My shout out is to Robert Tillotson. By the way, somebody in a comment yesterday in a post, I was asking, like, okay, what do I do that kind of annoys you? And in this post, somebody said, well, you're selective with your shout outs. You know what I'm doing here, right? These people already decided that they were going to support me. And I'm thinking, how do I give back? How do I say thank you to them? So it's one thank you per person, per video, until I exhaust the list. That's it. I just want to say thank you because they stepped up. I never promised them that I was going to say thank you. Just want to say thank you. All right, my friends, thank you for watching all the way through. Thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person who cares about Ukraine.